agrees. Tua, I'm worried about the Dolphins.
I think for me, it's understanding, that could get many things. Could be snowing, could rain, I don't know. For me, at least, it's a mindset thing. And if I'm too focused and worried about, is it too cold? Can I really grab the ball? Then I would say I'm focused on the wrong things. It'll be hard to play that way going down there against a really good team.
One thing before we start. What is that mask? You guys see that?
Yeah.
What is that?
Do you think we
should believe in Miami?
No.
Here we
You
go.
should believe in their talent. I know they can ball. I'm not questioning that. But inclement weather matters. I'm a guy that grew up and I watched Dan Fouts and Charlie Joyner and Kellen Winslow Sr. and Chuck Muncie and those brothers. And they had that Air Coryell offense when Coach Coryell was coaching them, man. It was something special to behold. That offense back in the 80s, right? And then they went to Cincinnati for the NFC Championship game in that freezing temperature, and you didn't know who the hell they were. They couldn't do anything because it was that damn cold, and they were accustomed to playing in Southern California. When I think about the Miami Dolphins, I look at a guy like Tyreek Hill. That's a guy that you're going to have to rely upon because playing in Kansas City, he's accustomed to it, and as a result, he knows how to prepare himself for it. He's cat quick. He's absolutely sensational, and you can rely on him. That's not going to have any effect on him whatsoever. But if you're guys that are accustomed to playing in that South Beach weather, and inclement weather is foreign to you, particularly with the kind of conditions that exist in Buffalo, I do believe, Dan, it could have a profound detrimental effect on you. Now, I will say this. I'm just talking about this game. Like, for example, you get through this game, a couple of more games, and then you go in the postseason and you have to play under similar conditions. That's different because now you've experienced it, you're accustomed to it, you know how to better prepare for it, etc., etc. But when you haven't had to play under that level of duress and then it confronts you for the first time, that combined with an elite team that you're going against in the Buffalo Bills, I think that's a tall order to ask. And that would give me cause to pause and force me to have some trepidation about the Miami Dolphins at this moment in time.
Yeah, so Molly, let me ask you a question. So should we believe in the Dolphins this weekend or believe in the Dolphins in general?
I had control room in my ear. Ask me the question again.
Believe in the Dolphins this weekend or believe in the Dolphins in general, like as a big picture view?
I look at it as leading a big picture view, because they have to get it done. And can they hang this weekend at the same time, but all encompassing, absolutely.
Same here. So, first of all,
Okay.
yes, I absolutely believe in the Dolphins. I'll address this weekend. The last 3 games that Buffalo has played at home in sub-freezing temperatures, they've hammered Atlanta by 17, Carolina by 17. They hammered Atlanta by 14, and then they beat the doors off New England last year by 30. So it doesn't look great for Miami this weekend, and that's more to do with how good Buffalo is and how well they hit. Everybody's saying that now Miami stinks or Tua's terrible or the head coach can't coach. Like, the first 9 games of the season didn't happen. And that's the first 9 games of the season happened. We can't discount everything that happened in September, October, and November because of the last 2 weeks for Miami and Tua. The reality is this. They went on the road to San Francisco, who, by all measures, is at worst the second best team in the conference in the NFC, and it was a one-score game in the third quarter, for as badly as they played. But people talk like that game was 35-0. And then last week, they're on the road again, and they didn't play well. And Justin Herbert threw for 370. So do I believe in the Dolphins? Yeah, because for 3 months they played phenomenal football. And Tua played phenomenal football. And their offense was absolutely humming. And their defense was playing well. And I'm not going to just pretend like that didn't happen. And just because of the last 2 weeks and them playing some subpar games on the road versus very good football teams, they're all of a sudden a bunch of bums. So I think this weekend is a huge challenge. Absolutely. And I believe the Bills win that game. But I still think the Dolphins are a playoff caliber football team and a very good football team.
I'm not trying to knock Miami like they are not much improved. that like McDaniel. My only issue with McDaniel this entire year was put into a in the game against Cincinnati after what had happened to him just 4 days earlier against Buffalo. Okay. That was my only issue with him. I think that he's proven that he kind of knows what he's doing on this coaching level, and he deserves credit for that. I think their defense is underrated, believe it or not, because they make some things happen. I think offensively, we've seen Tua with the first 9 games. You can't sniff at the fact that he was completing about 70% of his passes, and they were undefeated in games that he started and finished. And we know how I feel about Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So it's not to sit up there and throw any kind of shade at that whatsoever. We're just saying that some of these teams that you've got to go up against potentially, look at Buffalo, look at Cincinnati, look at Kansas City. I mean, these are guys, you see the weather conditions in those respective cities in the postseason. You imagine them playing at home instead of having to be near South Beach. It's a different animal. And I think that they're much more in tune and they're much more prepared for it. As an aside, Dan Orlovsky, a different subject, nothing to do with this subject, maybe you can explain to our audience, how in the hell a Connecticut woman